All right, so what we've got here is a really common situation, at least for us here at the rally school and for, you know, people driving around in the snow and that sort of thing. We've got a car that's off the road. Not usually that much of an issue if you have a tow strap with you, maybe some basic equipment. You find somebody that can pull you out. Maybe you've got a friend with a truck. You can hook onto your car, drag it out of the bank. That's just fine. What we've got here is a situation, though, where that's not really that possible. We don't actually have enough road here to just hook a tow strap on and drive away, because when you drive your vehicle down the road, it's going to drag the back end of the car over, and then you're going to be hung up in the trees, and you're going to rake the side of the car down that smaller tree there, and then probably get stuck, you know, the side of the vehicle or even the trunk of the vehicle against this tree over here. So it's a tough situation. Because you need to basically pull this vehicle directly out of the woods. You can't afford to tow it that way because it's not going to work, and you can't tow it that way, and there just isn't enough room to hook a vehicle up and drag it out the way that the car needs to be pulled. So we're going to run you through a really simple redirect with some basic equipment that's super easy to do, and it's a really handy way to get yourself out of these situations. Just want to show everybody some of the basic equipment that you might find out in the world here, and certainly the kit that we use here at the rally school for when students go off the road. What do we use to pull them out, and what's nice to have around? Some really simple stuff. The first thing, and one of the best things to have around, is a kinetic rope. A rope like this is designed with some stretch in it, so that one, as you tow somebody out, it's nice and smooth. Anybody who's ever hooked a chain or something up to a vehicle, or, you know, whatever, to drag it somewhere, notices when you make contact it hits hard, and then you're relying on the traction of that first vehicle to tow the second vehicle directly out. A kinetic rope like this, because it has a little bit of stretch, the nice thing is you hook up to the vehicle that's stuck, and you can basically just drive slowly away with the other vehicle, and when that strap comes tight, it's got some flex, and you don't actually need this vehicle to have that much traction, because that rope stores some energy and it pulls the second one out. Something to be aware of with these straps: you really can get up ahead of steam and pull a stuck vehicle, you know, out of the woods or out of the mud or a snowbank or something like that. But just be aware, at that point, if you have a failure, specifically maybe where I hook this up to this Jeep or where I hook the other end up to that car, if that tow point fails, now you have a projectile. And certainly that's something that's very dangerous, and a lot of people, you know, in the off-road world and in the recovery world, end up getting hurt by stuff like this. So, you know, any tow truck driver or something would know a strap like this, use with a little bit of caution. Make sure you hook it up to something that's really stout on either vehicle, and when you take off, you know, I don't have to get this thing into second gear and really launch and store up a huge amount of kinetic energy in that strap. You want to just, you know, try it really easy at first and see what happens. If you need a little bit more momentum, try pulling a little harder. That's fine. But certainly know the harder you hit this strap, the more energy you load up in here. This thing, the rope's not going to fail, and certainly one of these, you know, high strength shackles isn't going to fail. It's whatever you hook it onto that's the weak link in the system. And if I store a lot of energy and really take off with this truck, when it comes off of that car, it's going to come off at, you know, 50 miles an hour straight into the back of my truck. So we've seen people in the off-road world, these have gone through, you know, the trunk lid of a Jeep or something like that, or through the back window. Certainly anybody who's standing around is vulnerable at that point. So just be aware, use a little bit of common sense, but it's a really nice way to pull somebody out. And even if, say, I had to drive and, you know, tow a car down this road for a few miles, this is really nice to have because it's a nice, comfortable kind of stretch to it. You don't have that jerky feeling that you might get with a chain or, you know, with a normal flat strap. And this is a normal flat strap. This is probably what most people have seen and what most people use for basic recovery type of situations when somebody's stuck. Great piece of kit to have around, really versatile. But again, what you want to do with one of these is hook one end to either vehicle, drive until the rope is taut, and then rely on the traction of this vehicle to pull the other one out. So that's why it's nice to have, you know, a truck or maybe something that has low range, four-wheel drive, to pull you out of a mess like this. I've seen rally cars where, you know, if a rally car is stuck in the woods, maybe another car tries to pull them out. It's very easy to get this strap tight, and then as the towing vehicle is letting his clutch out and trying to pull the guy, I've seen people fry their clutches before. I've seen people, you know, have other problems where all of a sudden now you've got two damaged vehicles, or one that's stuck and one that's now broken, because you overstrain that first vehicle trying to pull it out. So it's okay to back up, maybe have a little bit of slack and give it a little bit of a tug, you know, something like that you can go ahead and do, but certainly you don't want a lot of slack in this line and then take off and really hit that one, because there's no real stretch or give to this. It's a little more than a chain, obviously, but it's not really designed with a lot of flex in the system there. So again, this kind of strap, get it tight and then tow the stuck vehicle out of the woods or the snowbank or whatever, and you should be good to go. On an icy road or something like that, these can be a bit of a problem. Say this was on glare ice, maybe I get this strap tight and then all of a sudden this car can't move because it's chained to that one. So you run into some problems like that where a kinetic strap might be a little bit better, but certainly really handy to have around, and definitely safer than that because it's not storing up that energy with the possibility of something snapping. That's a good, easy, safe way to recover a vehicle. Something that we started using here, because it kind of does everything that a flat strap does, but some things a little bit better, is a synthetic winch line extension. And you can find these online or a lot of off-road parts places and that kind of thing. It's basically a synthetic winch line like you might find mounted on a winch on a truck or something like that, but this is just an extension that's meant so that, you know, if maybe the winch on the front of your truck only has 100 feet of line and you're 150 feet away from a tree, that's what these are for, to get you that extra distance. We've been using them in rally cars and we've been using them in other places because really they're very lightweight and it's a nice compact way of having this strap with you basically. It's very high strength and you can get in a much smaller package a lot more distance than you can with a flat strap. You know, this is maybe only a 20-foot flat strap and you can see it's pretty bulky and takes up a lot of room maybe in the trunk of your car to have that around, where this is 50 feet and it's a much neater, smaller package to have stored in your vehicle. So again, you can find these very high strength. They're really lightweight. The one thing is it's a lot like a climbing rope. So anybody who's done any rock climbing knows that the UV rays, the sun, will degrade these over time, and the more sand and grit that you have in here as it works over time and that kind of thing, they do degrade. So, you know, if you're using it actively quite a bit like we do here, we replace these, you know, every year or two, depending on, you know, the condition that they're in. We'll throw this thing out and get another one. Because they can wear out and then they lose their strength and then they're more fragile and you're gonna have a failure. The nice thing about one of these lines, because again it doesn't store up energy, if I'm trying to tow that vehicle out and this breaks or a recovery point fails or something like that, this isn't going to recoil at the towing vehicle like a kinetic strap would. This is basically just going to fall to the ground. So they're very safe to use. It's a really neat little thing to have. The other nice thing is that these do float on water. Where a lot of other systems and a lot of the other stuff that you found isn't going to do that. So pretty cool little piece of kit, and we'll show you how it works. The other nice thing about this synthetic winch line extension is it gives you the option of using a snatch block or a pulley block. And the idea with a pulley block, I'll show you here in a second, it's really what we need in this situation. We've got a car off the road that we can't just tow out because it needs to come straight out of the woods so it doesn't get hung up in the trees here. So a snatch block gives you the option of redirecting that line to wherever you need it to be, so that when you hook your truck up or your car or whatever you might be using, you'll be able to pull it out. So again, these things, they're very simple to use, and I'll give you a quick rundown of it here in a second. But the idea is I can coil this winch line through here, hook this up to a tree, a vehicle, a rock, whatever I want. This part goes to my stuck vehicle. This part's going to go to my towing vehicle, and then that gives me the ability to put this wherever in the world I might need to, as long as I've got, you know, something structural there to hook onto, and then I can use that to redirect the force to where I need it to be to pull that vehicle out of the woods. So this is really neat, and I'll show you how this works. Some other things, when you are hooking, you know, lines together and lines to vehicles and connecting any of these systems to something, you want to use some quality gear. We like to use these big screw pin bow shackles, which are very high strength. You know, we paint them red so we don't lose them in the woods, except for the fall here in New Hampshire, obviously. But a good high strength shackle like this, there's all kinds of them, big ones, little ones, medium sized ones. It's nice to have a variety, but whatever works on your car. If you're putting a kit together to use for your own purposes, you know, figure out where your toe points are, figure out what size sort of shackle you might need. It's nice to have a hook as well, because maybe another vehicle doesn't have anywhere to hook a shackle to. You can get these hooks, and then it's very, very simple to go ahead and just add a hook to the system, so that if you do need to pull somebody like that, that's absolutely fine. So if you don't have anywhere to hook one of these on your car, having one of these little hooks to add in gives you that option. So definitely be aware of that kind of stuff, and just make sure when you buy a strap, anywhere that you're looking for these things, you'll be able to see what load this piece of equipment is rated at. So this might be rated at 20,000 pounds. These might be rated at 12, 15,000 pounds. That, you know, this is a pretty big strap. Again, that might be rated at 15,000 pounds, 20,000 pounds, who knows? So just ID that kind of stuff and realize that, you know, okay, if I only have a 3,000 pound vehicle, you might not need big, super heavy duty off-road stuff. But again, you know, if it's down over a bank and stuck in the snow, it's going to take more than 3,000 pounds of force to move a 3,000 pound car. So you're certainly going to want some kind of overkill equipment. It'll last you a lot longer, and it won't fail when you really need it. All right, so the quick and easy version of hooking a strap up to a car, this one, one of the Rally School cars here, so we have a big, easy to access reinforced tow point. So a recovery point like this on a rally car is something that you'll find that's pretty common. So if you're working sweep or towing a rally car out, you should be able to just walk up to the thing, and there's going to be something really strong and obvious like this. Most modern cars, you'll find that there's a small flap in the bumper cover that you can pop out, and then in the glove box or possibly in the trunk by the jack, there is a tow eye that will screw in, and those are very rugged. So be careful when you are hooking stuff up underneath the car. If you don't have a good recovery point, you know, maybe you can hook a strap around a control arm or something like that, you know, a solid rear axle on a truck. But always make sure that it's something strong, make sure that it's not going to interfere with a brake line or a fuel line or anything else that's going to just tear off. So look for whatever your best option happens to be. Use common sense, be safe about it, and that's pretty simple. So hooking something up like this basically is very easy. These shackles, the only real rule of thumb with these things is that if you do put a lot of force on them, they can flex. The issue you run into is if this screw pin here is all the way tight, I exert a lot of force on this, this flexes slightly, you might never get this screw pin back out. So one rule of thumb is when you hook one of these up, go all the way tight, back it off a half turn, you know, a little more. It doesn't really matter. You have plenty of threads engaged here, and you leave that little bit of play. Just as another rule of thumb, always screw down. Because again, this is loose, maybe you're moving around, maybe you have to try a few times, whatever might happen. You don't want to really run the risk of this falling out or getting lost in the dirt or something like that. So when you have the option, don't screw up, screw down, not all the way tight, and you should be good to go. So what we're going to do here is a really simple redirect using one of those pulley blocks. So what you need is an anchor point that is kind of in the direction that you need to be pulling that vehicle from. So, you know, in this case, we've got a lot of easy options. You know, New Hampshire, we've got hardwood trees everywhere. If you need to use another vehicle for this, that's fine. If you have to use a rock for this, that's fine. Just make sure that whatever you're hooking onto is going to be strong enough. You know, don't hook onto, you know, obviously a small tree or, you know, a dead tree. You know, look up and actually make sure that this tree's alive. The worst thing that you can do is redirect off of a tree like this, have this tree come down, and then either crush somebody or crush one of the vehicles that you're trying to use, or something like that. So really simple. In the off-road world, you'll see guys using tree straps. And that's fine. If you have a tree saver strap, great. The only reason I don't like them is that they're only 4 feet long. So, you know, if I go around this tree, now my pulley block's going to be about here. That might not really be where I want it. So what I'm going to do is use a regular conventional flat strap, and then I can determine the length of this by how many times I wrap it around the tree. If I want it to be long, so my pulley block's way out here, I might just wrap it around once and I'm fine. If I need it to be short, I can wrap it around many times, and I can move the distance of my pulley block just by doing that. So really, really simple. Just find kind of the midpoint of your strap right here, and then go ahead and wrap it around the tree. Go pretty low. Yeah, you want to go low on a tree like this, just so that you've got the most strength. You're closest to the root mass. So that should be just fine. And again, now that that was the midpoint, I should be about equidistant here, and that's looking pretty good. I only need one shackle for this operation right here, and it should be pretty basic. I've got my pulley block here, and what I'm going to do, this end is hooked directly to the vehicle that's stuck. I'm going to go ahead and loop that through my pulley block and close it. And then again, it should be very simple basically to use the same shackle, hook both straps together. You can use a bigger shackle for this, would work a little bit easier. Doesn't really matter though, I can get it done with this one. Go ahead and screw your shackle closed. Again, back it off just a little bit. And now that pulley block is going to redirect the pull from where I would be to where I need to be. Well, we've got the car that's off the road. It's actually directly behind the camera right now. I've got it hooked up, and you can see this system that I've got going on right here, and that gives me the availability to put my towing vehicle anywhere the heck that I want. Anywhere in this direction is fine. Again, if that was flipped over, I could be anywhere in that direction. So anywhere that I pull this from, because I've got that pulley block, it's going to pull directly at the angle that I need to get that car out of the woods the way that I want. So when you're hooking these things together, all the same rules apply as everything else that you've been doing. I'm going to go ahead and use the kinetic rope to hook to my towing vehicle. Again, not going to be a lot of force. I'm not going to drive off and hit this thing with speed. It's just going to add a little bit of softness to the system. So I got a little bit of give, and I can basically just drive away, and it's nice and safe and secure. We've got our vehicle hooked up, it's stuck off the road. Now we're running through this pulley block. I'm going to go ahead and use the kinetic strap to hook up to the towing vehicle. Again, this will just make it a little bit softer, make it a little bit easier to pull out. But one thing that you might find is, if you are for some reason worried about safety with a strap like this, it's pretty easy to add in a little bit of redundancy, a little bit of safety into the system. I'm not at all worried about this tow point here failing, but if I was, what you can do is add in another strap. In this case, I'm just using some nylon webbing, which actually is good for about 1,000 pounds, maybe more, depending on where you get it from. But basically, this stuff is relatively strong. But again, if I'm worried about the possibility of this tow point right here failing, what I want to control is that hook from flying off into the distance. So by adding in, and again, I've got this doubled over here, by adding this into the system right here, what's going to happen is, if that recovery point does fail, that strap is only going to go so far. So for whatever reason, if you've got a little bit of a shady recovery point or something like that, adding in a little safety like this might save somebody's life, or certainly it's never a bad idea. All right, so now you can see what we've got set up here. Car off the road. Again, you can't pull it down the road, you can't pull it up the road, so we've redirected it directly towards that tree. We've got our pulley block set up, everything's tight, it's nice and safe over there. And then again, we've got our line running directly to the Jeep here through that kinetic strap with a safety on it. So one thing that's nice about a redirected pull like this, we talked before about using a kinetic strap between two vehicles. If one of those recovery points fails, that strap's going to go flying directly at the other one, which isn't really a good situation. So safety-wise, a pull like this, if that recovery point fails on the back of that red Jeep, okay, I've already got a safety on it, but if it did go shooting off, it's going to shoot directly at that tree. Same thing with the Audi down here stuck in the woods. If that tow point fails, that rope's going to go shooting directly at that tree. So as long as nobody's standing over there, you're fine. The nice thing is you're not in a situation here where one vehicle is going to get pummeled with some of this flying equipment because it's all going to go in that direction. So if anybody is standing around, trying to tell one person what to do and the other, it's definitely safer. You don't really want to be in the middle there, just in case, maybe that pulley block fails. That might fly in towards the middle, that's fine. But just as long as everybody's clearing out of the way, everybody who happens to be standing around knows what's going on, you should be fine and you should be safe to just go ahead and pull this vehicle right out.